Hello everybody, welcome. Thank you all for coming here today. Thank you to coming to this talk. It's always very exciting to be around all these creatives, designers, and just being in this environment is usually a very interesting time. Design Week in general is usually one of the most exciting weeks in Dubai for us, designers and architects, graphic designers, and everybody. We'd like to also thank SketchUp and Chaos Group for having us here today. And let's go over the presentation. My name is George Massabni. This is Sharif Abdel-Salam. And welcome to From Theory to Reality, V to R. Quick introduction, we are both coming from Dar al-Handasa, which is, probably most of you may know it. If you don't, it's one of the biggest consultants here in the Middle East, with more than 50 plus offices all over the world. We have 5 main offices in Cairo, Beirut, London, Jordan, and Pune, as well as a big design presence here in Dubai. Myself, I am the head of the conceptual design unit with Dar al-Handasa. I have been with the company for almost 10 years now, working from the Cairo office, Beirut office, and as well now the Dubai office. Sharif, you can introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name is Sharif Abdel-Salam. I'm working in Dar al-Handasa as a 3D artist for 5 years now, but I have more than 10 years of experience in the visualization industry. I started using 3D Max back in 2001 with its earlier version. It was called that time 3D Studio Max Discrete. A few years later came Vray, which was revolutionary in the industry. And since that time, the same thing's been going until 4 years ago. Things become more intense and complicated for the visualization. So Unreal Engine came and Vray, and together they have given us actually more powerful to present our work, our projects through still images, animation, and virtual reality.
Yeah. What you failed to say as well as Sharif, that Sharif is not is a self-trained CG artist.
Yes.
Sharif is actually a finance major, but
yes,
this is basically his passion, and he's been the power leading power force behind all our development.
I don't have an architectural degree. I'm actually have a business degree, but I have a strong passion for 3D art, and that's actually what guided me through through this time to work in this visualization industry. So I think it's the passion for art that guides you always to proceed. You're ambitious to achieve something.
Yeah. So, quick timeline. 2014, 5 years ago exactly, Dar al-Handasa decided to have more design presence in Dubai. So they decided to create a new design unit to be here on the ground and cater for most of our projects that are in the region as well as in Dubai in specific. It's a very young team. Probably Sharif is the oldest one between us, and we are really trying to do new things, always experimenting, and we have a lot of support from the company, of course, to do this, which is always very exciting. We are working on a wide array of projects, from small arts installations to universities, mixed-use projects, hospitals, museums, master plans. What else are we doing? Transportation projects. This is an embassy. High-rise towers, offices, visitor centers, airport, Concourse D. I'm sure we all traveled through it sometimes, resorts. So our palette is rich and full with many, many projects, not specific in one project. The company has, due to our large presence and many offices, we can cater to most projects, no matter how the complexity, no matter how the size. What are we going to be talking to you about today is how VR technology is starting to really change our day-to-day business, basically. As architects and as designers, this is becoming a tool, very available and very easy to use, that it is changing how the dynamics are in the office for us as an office, how we are presenting ourselves, how we are presenting our clients, how we are communicating with each other, as well as on another level, how this is helping during even the earliest design stages, to test fit the projects, test fit the design, make different decisions, and at last how we can present this to our clients and to various stakeholders, and how their experience becomes much more different than when it used to be just a few years back. Now, it's safe to say that we are not developers, we are architects, we are designers, and basically we are merely catching up with what the technology has to offer. For the last couple of weeks when we were doing this presentation, I believe there's 2 or 3 new things that are already coming up, and the challenge, or not the challenge, the idea is to how do we capitalize on these ideas and on these technologies for us as architects. This is what we want to talk to you about today. So a quick story, obviously these images are staged, but we were at the office and we just had some new physical models made, and we were just, as you can see from these stage images, trying to figure out where do we put those models, how do we rearrange the office, and there was a moment of frustration where someone from the team is just fed up with there's a column here and there's too much furniture, and then there's this moment of I really wish we could design our own space, this is getting frustrating. And then 5 seconds of silence, and Sharif is like, we can actually do that.
Yeah, basically after a lot of trials with the virtual reality, it was really frustration to, when we try to access one of the projects, just to open a single project at a time. So I told George, why don't we just build up a virtual space where we can have all or most of our project inside this virtual space, and then we can access each project by, for example, a trigger button or just any type of interaction with the model. Then we can proceed, or we can load the actual file of the building. So it's like an idea of having all the files inside the virtual space, and then George decided to take this to the next level.
So the idea is that now we have a technology that allows us to design what we call our gallery, which is a virtual gallery and a space that we get as designers to create without any limitations, without any boundaries, without any rules or physical budget, structure, anything. So it's like a dream come true. You always, as designers, we're always complaining about our office is too small, our office is too crowded, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that. Now you can actually do that without any limitations. So we started thinking about, okay, what does the space want to be? Maybe it's a simple box, just a very clear space. In that moment we were looking at like Renzo Piano's art galleries, which are very clean, very white, super crisp, and where you can actually see the project and understand what you're looking at. And we started doing those, this is like exercise where everybody was having fun at the office, how can we actually do this? And we did those quick SketchUp models. Maybe we have some, it's a volume, it's just a clean box. You could put your models inside it, and then you walk around and you actually understand what the project is. And then, well, someone was like, okay, why don't we just go further? It doesn't have to be a simple box, it doesn't have to do that. This is the main reason why we're doing this exercise. We have no physical or no boundaries. So we're starting experimenting with different geometries, different ideas. But the idea is that now you have the flexibility to create your space, to present yourself how you want to, without any limitations. So this is a quick video of our test fitting of what this space can be, and this is one of the earlier ideas. How do I do this? Okay. So we have designed this very simple box. It's a pure clean box, and we decided to put it in the middle of a lake because why not? We can do that. And there's mountains behind you, and it's an amazing atmosphere. It's a very simple and clean space, and using your VR goggles, you can actually go inside the space, walk around. This is one of our projects that we're going to be talking about later on. And you can actually experience like a physical model of the project with some renderings around it. So it's slowly but surely becoming basically our portfolio. We are steering away from why do we need to have a typical portfolio PDF that you send to someone. This is a space that you can invite your clients in. You can all be in the same space, see the projects, walk around, talk about those projects, And then whenever there's a project that maybe the client is interested in, you can actually click on this project and move to the next level, which is the actual virtual reality experience of the project itself. I'm not showcasing this in this video, but this is the idea that we are working towards. So it's becoming an ever-changing experience, because you have no boundaries and you have no rules, which means that you have unlimited locations and you have multiple sites. So it started from our office is too busy. Let's design a virtual space. We design a virtual space, but then we realized that there's nothing stopping us from recreating and rebranding the space depending on what we need. Let's assume I have a client who I'm designing a skyscraper for. I can meet him in a corporate office with glass facade and overlooking the view that maybe his project is in. I'm doing a design that is more personal, more cozy. I'm doing a cabin on top of a mountain. Maybe I can create this space or this experience that is more personalized for my client, and I can really set the mood and set the setting for what this project is. Maybe it's more of a museum-like space with high ceilings. Or it's in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of a desert where there's only you and this shape or this volume. There is a building in here, I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. It's a mirror tree house, which is a really cool project. It can be outdoors. It can even be in space. It can be anywhere. There's nothing. There's now 3D printing happening on Mars, ideas about that. There's this is a line from a movie, but you think it's cool. It's your only limitation is your imagination. These are pictures of Blade Runner and Space Odyssey 2001 episodes here. So that doesn't mean you're not confined with your space, you're not confined with your office, you're not confined with anything. You can do whatever you want. Which led us to think that, okay, how can we use VR technology to refine our design, to make proper and efficient coordination and detect conflict before construction. So basically the idea is that it's not only architects or clients that can use this technology. This is between us, the client, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, lighting consultants, interior designers, where we can all have a shared virtual environment, and we can all be in the same space at the same time, examining the building or the structure or the space, depending on which level of design you're at. Because what we're saying is that very, very early on the design, this is what we're trying to do. Use the technology to make better decisions. So if you have all stakeholders inside this virtual space, detecting the clashes, refining the design, looking at the same thing, getting the same experience, you lose the gap of imagination that is between an architect who more or less should at least understand space, understand volume, to a client that maybe can't really visualize the best 3D rendering. Maybe he doesn't really feel, is the space too big? Is it too small? Is this what I really want? Now you bridge this gap and the communication becomes very seamless and very easy. And what we are working on at the time being is, at this shared space environment, is that basically, as you can see here, say the server host, this is ourselves, the client, the architects, and the client himself can be as well with us within the same space. At the time being, we can do this during, let's say we are inviting a client over to our offices. We can do this using 2 VR glasses. However, we believe that this technology is becoming more and more available, that probably a lot of us who have PlayStation 4s have some games using VR. So if this becomes more popular, this means that we can do this actually online. You can be in your office, your client is in China, and you decide to meet on top of a mountain in your dark gallery to show him some of your latest projects and go inside of them and really discuss all minor details in them and all the experiences in them. This is the first part of how we try to think of VR for us as a studio. Now we're going to take you through a case study of a project where we talk about how VR has helped us during the early design, very, very early design stages, as well as at the later stages where we show the client how the project is going to basically exist. We want to talk to you about Dubai Harbor. It's a project, it's a master plan that we are working on with Miras, which I believe a lot of you would know. It's one of the biggest developers here in the region. It's opening up in October 2020. It's a big master plan, 120,000 square meters, we are designing at the time being, actually under construction at the time being, are the two cruise terminals which are going to cater for two mega cruise ships at the same time for their turnaround trip. Is how the VR experience ties into that. So we don't want to wait until we have a final product. We don't have a third party doing this. This is during a normal day, hey Sharif, we need to check out if we like this option or not. So the idea is to use the different options or different ideas and really test them in real time and really get the idea of, is this the way that we want to go, or do we want to change something about that? Obviously, the project develops further and we reach into the BIM level, and this is a project that is under construction, so the level of details that we are getting at are for our construction level. From the final model, these renderings are done, Sharif was obviously working on those renderings, are done using Vray 3D Max, and we really try to showcase the materiality of the building because we're using a unique shingle system which has I would say a champagne color, which is really, really different and very striking in contrast of the cruise ships, who are mostly white. You can really understand what the geometry of the whole site is, the relationship between the cruise ship and the cruise terminal itself. The other technical part of the cruise ship, which is the cruise terminal, which is the gangway, how do you relate the building to the cruise ship itself. The main entrance of the building, as you can see, it's a very simple and a very, very repetitive modular building. However, we believe that because of this repetitiveness, it has a strong presence and it has an interesting and very striking look to it. This is your approach when you're coming to the building, when you get dropped off. And as you can see, the difference in scale is immense because the cruise ships are, I don't remember the number, but they're very high. We start with the interior journey of the main lobby. You go in, and then you start your journey into the building. This is the VIP lounge overlooking the main space. Obviously, the building, because of its location and because of its surrounding, you are always getting those amazing views from any vignettes that you get from the building, either from the glass triangular openings or from the main entrance to the front and to the back. This takes you to the journey for departure. And then this is on your way back when you get your luggage. Obviously, the triangular shapes and the triangular branding, we are taking this all the way through the projects.
This is all was done in-house, so our rendering team actually have went through this many times until the client actually have approved them.
Yeah.
So Vray actually was our render engine for these images. So we had a lots of experiments with them until the client actually approved the quality to be a marketing piece.
Yes, this is basically the marketing material that Miras are using now to promote this building, and this was launched in a few months back. It was launched on their account and on their Instagram as well, and the project is actually under construction at the time being. After we finished the renderings and we were testing out the project still, using Unreal Engine, this is what we started to work on to really understand what the experience is of the building from the outside and from the inside. So obviously this is a recording from the Unreal Engine, so it might be a little bit shaky because we were looking around, trying to test out, trying to understand what the building feels like. So we wanted to get the full experience, full journey of you getting dropped off. You stand here, look around, get a feeling of where you're going at, what the building looks like, get an understanding of the scale of the building. Unfortunately, we would have loved for you guys all to have the VR goggles on to really experience that, but that's it for the moment. This was me, so I was walking around more than a normal passenger because I wanted to look at different things. Wanted to see how those triangles really feel like when you get closer to them, because we always had this feeling that are they going to feel imposing? Is the repetitiveness going to look interesting or not? But we believe that the materiality of the building with the shadows and the effect that these triangles are doing really makes this an interesting space and an interesting walk from from the drop-off area to the entrance of the building. Just trying to see what the materials look like, how they are reflecting. It's also important to say that this was done based on the BIM model. So there's a lot of information in the model, which was not a very big problem. Sharif will talk about the technicalities of how this was actually done. But at the time being, this was just a nice walk and an understanding of what this building really feels like. It's getting closer to the entrance. I'm taking a more than normal long walk to get to the building.
And also, you should mention how, like, you were a difficult person to convince with the quality.
Thank you, Sharif.
George always, like, for example, he likes to ask for changes in the materials, changes in the buildings, and to do that through a 3D Max and a V-Ray rendering, it could be fast, but the problem is we cannot finish this, for example, if he changed the geometry and we try to adjust it and reflect it on the rendering. Sometimes it's difficult to finish a bunch of images in one day. So that's why Unreal Engine and also using V-Ray was helpful in applying his comments on the material, on the reflection, and also adding objects quickly inside the engine, which helped us actually to follow his comments and apply it according to his point of view.
What's also interesting to say is that I was actually at the site last week, and the gap of, this is the feeling that we always get of when you design something and it's getting built, and then you go there and you get this feeling of, I thought it was going to be bigger, I thought it was going to be smaller, oh no, this was darker than I thought. Now this is not becoming a problem, because the experience that I had walking through the building was exactly the experience that we are having during this VR experience. Then we go inside, which is we have seen those areas during the renderings. This was the renderings of the main lobby, but it's always a different experience when you're inside the space. This is when I was telling you that there's always an amazing view to look at, which has really helped the design, because whenever you are walking, whenever you see, you always get those vignettes of the Palm or JBR Marina, or the water, the cruise ship. This is where the handrail, we felt that was too solid and we wanted to change it, but we didn't for the time being. This will be. And you go upstairs, so this is basically your journey as a passenger. You go in, you do your check-in, take a look around, and then you go up on the upper level, start to move towards the cruise ship. Just look around at the space, try to understanding how big it is, how small it is. And for an architect or a client alike, this is a very real-like and very personal experience. You really understand what the space is. These are the triangular shapes that we saw from the outside. And as you can see, I will stop somewhere here to look at the view, because those triangular openings really make it more interesting. Now, it's fair to say that we're using an image for the view here, not a real model. And then you continue walking to go to your passenger experience. You need to go through a security check and passport control.
Yeah, also during his experience through the walkway inside the building, some of the things you have requested to change, like the tiles materials, some of the colors, this was done actually instantly. So once he gave us a comment, we apply it instantly.
And you see it instantly, you can see the changes happen instantly.
And this is the power of the engine to use it with V-Ray actually.
We'll have to cut through the line here. So basically, we were able to really understand what a personal experience of a normal person who's going to take this cruise ship, go somewhere, really understand what is he going to experience, how is he going to feel about the space, does it feel too big, are the colors too dark, because this is something that we were always discussing, is it going to be too dark, are those triangular openings that now we feel are really interesting, are they enough to see the view, is it going to be too dark in the space? And then you can really make your decisions based on that. This is the gangway bridge, and then off you go back to your cruise ship. and this is where the project is at the time being. Unfortunately, I couldn't share more images. This is what we agreed on sharing. But as you can see, I tried to, as much as possible, take the same view when you're really next to those triangular shapes, and you can tell that the materials are exactly like we really wanted them to be. The shapes are like we wanted them to be, and the experience is not, it's not a surprise. You really know what you are designing, and you really make exact decisions based on experiences, based on details, based on information. Okay. You take this part. Okay. So before we take this part, so this is becoming our process, which is a quick sketch, a SketchUp model. Check out what does this mean in VR. Is this what we really want to do? Test out lighting, test out materials, test out geometries even before all of that. Develop the model further, develop our BIM model, do the final renderings, recheck again using Unreal Engine, and it's becoming a full loop. It's not someone is doing something, another team is doing the renderings. It's a seamless loop that really connects all the entities together and all the softwares, all the team together. You don't have to wait until you finish the project to really find a third party to create this for you. This is something that is happening on a day-to-day basis. This is how we are conducting business on a daily basis at the time being, and we believe it's going to get easier and it's going to get faster the more we progress. Okay, Sharif is going to take you through how did he actually do this.
Okay, we have prepared a small video. It's just like 10 minutes. It's basically talking about how we actually achieve this virtual reality experience. So this is basically to show you how you also can apply this at your office, at your home. So before we start, how many of you guys here have started using Unreal Engine lately? Okay, good. So have you also tried Vray with Unreal Engine? Okay, good. So we have been using actually Unreal Engine for the last 4 years, but the quality always was actually a big comment from our architects. So once we started experimenting with Vray, we started to get the positive feedback that it's actually a good thing. So once we received the final model from the Revit architectural team, it's time to import the model inside 3D Max, which is our software which we use. And this is where we start with the normal process, add the Vray materials to the model. We have imported the model using the FBX format from Revit. It's actually a good tool to use it with the import. So just a basic start with the Vray material, and this is actually a good technique because you don't need to add these materials inside Unreal Engine. So you just can tweak the lighting, and as we can gonna see later on. Okay, so once the materials are done, basically we need to export this to Unreal Engine. And you have two ways to do that, either using a plugin called DataSmith, which is basically a plugin that has been developed by Epic Games. And this plugin, what it actually does is it's export the models to the Unreal Engine with a light map already calculated. I mean, already done, like the unwrap thing. You can use also the Vray C to export your model to Unreal Engine. So before we move to Unreal Engine, I just want to can close here. Yeah. I just want to talk a little bit of light map. Many people hear today about the light map, like the name of this terminology. Basically, if you are a 3D Max user and you have come across unwrapping the model, the light map actually is a flat sheet with the faces of the object are flattened on that sheet. So let's say, for example, you have a box of six faces. These faces have been flattened over a light map, over a texture that is called light map. And inside the Unreal Engine, the engine uses these light maps of each object of your project to calculate the lighting and the shadows of the model. Okay, so moving to the Unreal Engine, starting up a new project with the maximum quality and the starter content, because we're gonna use this with the PC virtual VR glasses, whether it's Oculus Rift or Vive, it's your choice. After the engine will start, if you have a bit of plugins installed, like the Vray and the Substance, any other plugins, it will ask you to restart. So here we're starting the engine, and then the first thing we're going to do is create a new level. And it's an important thing to do if you are creating an architectural visualization project inside the Unreal Engine. Now we're going to use the DataSmith tool to import the model inside the Unreal Engine. And as you have seen, DataSmith, the plugin itself, when you install it, you get an extension inside 3D Max to use it for the export, and also you can add it inside Unreal Engine to import your model in. Once the models are imported and they actually comes inside the Unreal Engine as it was arranged inside the Revit, we're going to start playing a little bit with the V-Ray material, such as the glasses, adjusting the IOR to get a clean look of the glass, because inside the virtual reality, if you are coming across a glass panel, sometimes if you don't adjust your IOR to, I'm adjusting this for example for 1, so I can get a clean look from the glass panel. I don't get like a shade inside. And also, this is also a fun part where you can also tweak your color of the materials and some other values like the reflection, the glossiness. This is all was imported from 3D Max using the V-Ray material, and it's basically the same values that you adjust there in 3D Max. This is where I give you a hard time. Exactly. Okay, after that we drop the V-Ray Sun and Sky, as everyone is using the 3D Max knows that the V-Ray Sun and Sky is one of the best tools to use for a fast rendering process. The reflection sometimes doesn't look so nice, so you're just going to go to the production, project settings, adjust the reflection value, increase it from 128 to 1024 to get a clean look of the reflection. But most of you, as most of you know, that today we like to use the HDRI image in our render. So after adjusting a little bit with the Vray Sun in the Sky, we're going to import an HDRI image, and this depends on how you want to show the building. You can import daylight, an early sun time, or a late afternoon, like the one we're going to use now. After importing the HDRI, in the engine, you have to adjust the resolution of the HDRI map. So you're just going to go to double-click the image and adjust the MIP settings. Choose something called no MIP map, and you will get the full resolution of the HDRI. So after that, we're going to add a Vray Light Doom, which also equal to the same one that you're using inside 3D Max, and just straightforward drag the HDRI image inside the texture place of the Vray Doom. Then easily you can adjust the sun direction of the Vray Sun and Sky tool to match the HDRI image sunlight direction. And then of course you have to click on the prepare light for choose the slide tool to be prepared for bake. So once you click on bake, after a few hours of baking, you will get the result of the baking system of the Vray. This is also a post process that we're going to talk later. Okay, if you can go through. Okay, I just want to have a little bit to chat with you about the Vray setting. In the early versions of Vray, this panel was not there. So now what Vray have done is that they have provided us with something called an Atlas rendered way. Atlas slides, actually. If you remember, I've just detailed a little bit about the light map, and the Atlas here in Vray, once you click on the bake, it will produce a slides. These slides bring those light maps inside the Atlas. And depending on the size of the Atlas slide, it will control the number of the slide. So the higher the resolution of the Atlas, the less the slides and also the less time of the render, depending also on your PC performance. And up there you can see the quality is 0, and this is represent the default quality of the look. 1 is medium quality, 2 is the higher quality. Below that you will find export EXR image, and this is actually one of the best tools inside the Vray for Unreal. And what this tool does, it's exporting the light map calculation that you're doing during the bake. So assuming, for example, a crash happened to your computer or a power cutoff, if you have chosen to export your light map, once you restart your engine again and continue, you can basically activate the override light map. This is the last option, and copy those EXR images to that override light map folder. So the Vray, what it will do is it's gonna skip the already baked objects, and it will continue from there. So the baking process will be less. Okay. And for the Vray settings, it's basically straightforward, adjusting the light cache. And one of also the good options that Vray have provided is choosing whether you want the graphic card or the CPU to do the baking process, or you can actually activate both of them. And also you can use distributed threading, so you can speed up the process by many ways. Okay. To save it, of course, takes time inside the engine. After everything has been done, we have started the baking, and this is what I was telling you about the atlas. And we have 5 slides. Those 5 slides represent, each one of them represent a slide that will contain the light map of the objects inside the atlas map. So if you have chairs, tables, any type of 3D objects inside your scene, you will see it in the atlas, as you can see here. These are the faces that represent the light map of each of the objects. So once the baking of the Vray have finished, you can go around the model and start reviewing your baking, the lighting and the materials and everything. You can actually adjust the light intensity after the baking has been done. It will actually help you increase the quality a little bit by adjusting these small values. Here we're adding a sphere reflection. We are preferring to add these after the baking has been done, and later on we're gonna choose in the baking options to bake only the reflections, not the whole project again. So adding these small spheres and then going to the Unreal actually build the small arrow button, you can choose that you want only to build the baking for the reflection. Okay, once the reflection are done, it doesn't take that much time actually. So now your model is ready to be seen in virtual reality. But before that, you can start adjusting a few things in the post-process. The post-process is actually a tool inside the Unreal Engine. It's equal to the post-production that you're actually doing inside Photoshop. So you can adjust a vignette, add actually a lens flare like we did a second ago, and also adjusting the temperature, whether you want it to be a cooling atmosphere or a warm one. Depend on many judgment of who gonna see the settings that you are adjusting. So the post process is actually based on your judgment from your point of view. Okay, once the post process are done, we're gonna add a blueprint for the virtual reality. And this is when we choose when we created a new project. Before that, we choose to have the starter content of the engine, and you can add it anytime, and then just choose a motion controller bound and drag it inside the engine. And then head to the input to import the movement settings. You can get these settings from a default project from the Unreal Engine, export it, and then import it into your project. Okay, this one is the most important part of the virtual reality experience inside the architecture project. It's called the navigation mesh bounds. This is where you determine where your client or your architect's gonna move inside your object. You literally can determine where they can go and where they don't need to go. So after you add this, for example, on your preferred area, you're just gonna hit P to see if these areas can be movable. To activate the objects that they can be teleported on, you're just gonna click on the objects, double click it, and then just adjust the collision to be, like you can see here, simplex collision. The engine will convert this surface to be enabled inside the navigation mesh, so you can use it with the VR. As you can see here, after putting the VR headset, you can basically now start teleporting inside your project. And that's basically the few steps that you can do with the Unreal Engine and Vray to start a basic virtual reality experience. Hope this was easy enough for you guys to accept it and try it also.
That's it.